Rare has just shown off Sea of Thieves Season 8 just a few moments ago, and I have to say, it looks like the best update in years. With plenty of rewards, progression, factions, world expansions, and more, this is exactly what a season should look like. Sit back, relax, and let's have a talk about everything you need to know and missed about Season 8's mind-blowing reveal trailer. Also, I'm f***ing excited. Kicking off, Season 8 is a completely PvP focused update, something fans have been asking for since, well, as long as anyone can remember. As Return of the Damned comes to a close, we move into the next stage of the arms race between the two main factions. PvP will be taking place in line with the story, where ships will pledge allegiance to a faction and opt in to PvP. And all of this happens in adventure mode, so expect that touch of chaos to be ever present. Guys, already this blows every other season out of the water, I don't care what you say. In the trailer, we get an opening shot of these two figureheads representing the forces of the Pirate Lord and Athena's Fortune, and Captain Flameheart and the Reaper's Bones. These are the two factions, the Guardians of Fortune and the Servants of the Flame, which we'll dive into their progression later on. When you opt in, there's two methods of engaging in PvP. Passive play is when you choose to fight for either side and you go about your regular business. Do world events, sea forts or quests, whatever you want. This will put you in a matchmaking pool, where rival faction ships can and will invade you. Rare makes this clear, and I will reiterate this now. When you opt in, you are consenting to PvP, or even more so than just logging in. There's no moaning or crying about getting sunk like emissaries, you have no excuse anymore. On the other hand, if you're feeling aggressive, you can hunt down other ships by using the war map. This is when the cinematic part starts. You will dive under the sea once in open water and appear in the underwater trenches. Think of these as tunnels of the damned, but underwater. When you found a match, you will shoot up out of the water facing your opponent. This is some serious Davy Jones shit, and the presentation here gives me goosebumps. Anytime an invasion happens, be it you being invaded or invading a rival, the battle bounds will appear. This is a circle on the map marking the area of play. If you venture out of the circle too far, the hourglass begins to crack. If you go even further past the threshold, it will explode and your ship will be sunk, and then the battle is lost. Other ships on the server will be allowed in and out of the battle bounds, so just be wary of that when you're fighting. The fact Rare's implemented an anti-running mechanic is just music to my ears. This is truly a PvP update through and through. It even addresses issues that kinda plagued Arena with the chest running, and Adventure's current issues. The thought gone into this mechanic is fantastic. It's also worth noting that these battles can happen organically like they always have. You can simply sail over and sink someone, opted in or not. There's even more as well, with a robust progression system for each of the factions. The hourglass essentially gets powered up each time you successfully win a fight. When you want to call it quits, you can opt out at the emissary table, and this will dish out some gold and progression for your faction. If you wish to progress in the passive mode, you could do so by stacking loot on your ship. The more loot you hold, the higher the value the hourglass is and can only be cashed in by going to an outpost. If you defend your loot, you get lots of progression towards your hourglass and allegiance too. And yes, there's two new factions to progress through in this update. This progression is known as allegiance. It's basically reputation. On this screen we can see some cool stats, your total ship sunk, highest streak for the faction, and highest value earned from a single session. We've never had any of these sort of stats represented in game, and having this displayed front and center is going to make for some crazy content and thrilling gameplay. If you also missed it, there's 40 brand spanking new commendations for each faction. While there's 40 for each, it is likely that most of these will just be the same for each faction, but nice to see some potential for long-term engagement here. Rare went even further and added the championship mechanic. This has two effects. If you build up a streak of 4 ships or more, you become a boss ship, where you have a new marker on the map. Players will gain even more allegiance for sinking you. If you're on a smaller ship though and achieve this status, you can vote to fight larger crew sizes, but this is only available for brigs and sloops. For me, I'm finally looking forward to fighting blurbs in Season 8. Lastly, you can also raise an Athena or Reaper emissary to gain faction rep for each faction, or progress for emissary ledger rewards. So Ray, you ask, what's the point in doing this? Just for gold? Well, definitely not just that. On top of the progression for the two new factions, there's the Captaincy milestone classes for each of the factions too. Yes, the long-awaited and absent from Season 7 PvP milestones. Like the previous milestones, you can see a bunch of trinkets and Captaincy customization options available. There's also 2 Captaincy sets available here. The first one is the Legendary set to match the Legendary ship set. And there's the Bone Crusher set, which, doesn't really match with the Reaper's theme or the OG Bone Crusher set. This really looks like the one that goes with the unreleased set we saw in September's Sea of Thieves news video. They look great, don't get me wrong, but a Reaper set would be much more appropriate. Let's hope Rare has some hidden stuff. On the other hand, the trinkets look sick, so much better than what we had before. There's the Pirate Lord bust, the legendary swords, the crest for the Guardians, and the Athena Hourglass of Fate. Oh, and there's Banjo-Kazooie, Killer Instinct, and seemingly Conquer trinkets. Captain Blubber will be pleased. The Servant alignment has the same or similar stuff, but we do get a sick bust to Flameheart in all his glory, and the Servant's mask and swords. The crests on the nameplate also depict Ramsey and Flameheart. Shortly after, we can see some rewards you can unlock for leveling up. There's these faction figureheads depicting each of the leaders. And of course, eagle-eyed viewers will see that the green ghost set has been pictured a few times in the trailer already. These have been on ArtStation for a very long time now. Unfortunately, some of you would have noticed the Reaper ship only has a new figurehead, with all the other pieces being old or recent parts. But back to the positives, and this is absolutely amazing. Each faction will get access to a new area in their respective hideouts for reaching faction level 100. Oh, and it's only available if you're a Pirate Legend in the case of Athena, and Reaper 75 in the case of the Reaper's Bones. I know a few new players will be disappointed by this. I think it's an excellent choice for several reasons. Firstly, it adds a new element to the progression and rewards for Pirate Legend, which should entice people to stick around to achieve the rank. Secondly, it fleshes out the progression of the Reaper's Bones and brings them as a more equal faction to Athena's Fortune, which sort of makes sense in the context of the ongoing war. And finally, my idea of a new faction for maxing out the Reaper's Bones partially got implemented, and that makes me happier than you can believe. From the glimpses of these areas, I can't wait to explore them. The environment work looks gorgeous. It's another clear win for the art team. Even better, look who's back. After disappearing way back in 2019, Gloria. I can't believe Rare have finally brought her back. To put the icing on the cake, both factions will get new curses for progression to Allegiance 100. Athena gets the Blessing of Athena's Fortune, essentially the Ghost Curse. Oh, and there's a golden recolor to boot. On the other side, the Servants get the Skeleton Curse. I know we had this teased on Halloween, but to finally see this added after 5 years of requests just warms my heart, and it makes my skin fall off too. The Skeleton Curse does have customization options. This allows you to pick your head, upper body and lower body along with your bone colours. The pieces are seriously grotesque, but this does come at a price, not including your sanity of course. There is no current customization options that work with the Skeleton Curse, so if you like a jacket, hair, what have you, it's not going to work. I don't really know what to say about it. I'll talk about this more next week in my review. I do, however, like the fact we have Ashen options, though I'm not sure if now is the time for me to drink from the chalice. In a blink and you miss it moment, we can see that Athena's Fortune has 2 recolor clothing sets. This is the Green Ghost set clothes and the Mysterious Stranger set too. And to add a cherry on top of the icing on the cake, there's 2 bespoke cutscenes for when you accept your gift from each faction leader. I won't show footage here and I urge you to wait for these. It's also because I want to experience these myself. And that wraps up the content as a whole. Before I break down my thoughts, we'll briefly go over the Season Pass. After 5 years of waiting, we did it folks. We got it. Captain Flameheart's hat is here in all its glory. I've been begging for this and annoying the hell out of Rare for ages for this, and it's finally here. Expect an outfit change soon. And on top of that, Flameheart's sword is here too. This is just too much for me. Briefly, we can see some Flameheart inspired clothing, a skeleton rune scar, some skelly tattoos and face paint, and some Phantom Sailor weapons. These will go nicely with the new curses. And of course, we have the Emporium stuff and a new Plunder Pass, which I don't really need to cover. Look out for my review on Tuesday for a better look at these. And one final thing of note in the trailer, if you look carefully towards the end of the video, you can see these white tiger sails, which look strangely similar to the tiger depicted on the magpie's wing. So we can expect the ship set at some point, or at least the sails. And that wraps up all you need to know. This is an update fans have been begging for, and it's safe to say Sea of Thieves is firmly back on everyone's list. I love almost everything that's been announced here, and this is shaping up to be a truly special season. I'm also enthralled by the fact Rare had the balls to make a PvP update where you actually have to engage in PvP to earn the rewards. There's no running, no calling PvP toxic, and no choosing the rewards. This is what we needed. The robust progression system is also really enticing for me, as PvP can now be tracked and progressed in Adventure 2 on demand as well. It'll be interesting to see how popular this feature will remain, but as the faction and milestone progression is chunky, this should tie us over to Season 9 at the least. Sorry PvE fans, this one is a Sea of Thieves update through and through. Which just about wraps it up. How do you guys feel? Let me know down in the comments and also tell me which faction you'll be grinding out first. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.